Hello and welcome back to my channel. I know I am not very active at the moment, and that's due to health problems in the family, and unfortunately it looks like this is going to go on for the foreseeable time. So yeah, it'll be less in the next coming weeks and so on. But not zero, I hope. Depends a little bit on how things pan out. So I'm preparing now for Worldflight 2020. This year, due to the pandemic, we're not going to see the same kind of Worldflight that we used to have in the previous years. For one, the route and also the whole planning has been left very late. So we are less than 4 weeks before Worldflight starts, and we haven't even got the routes yet. At least a couple of weeks ago they published the route, the 49 legs. You can see them here. This is the route map. What is not clear is which of the teams, normally the full teams that have a simulator and put up a roster of pilots, are going to participate. We have no idea. One thing is for sure: the German team will not take part. It's just too high a risk, unfortunately, due to COVID. And I wonder what will be about the other teams, the Simfest guys and so on. So probably there will be teams participating, but it's not clear yet, so I can't really see where everybody stands. So I have decided to take off that week anyway, because I need a couple of days off anyway, and I will participate in some of the flights. I'm not going to do the whole thing. It's just too much for one person. I may be doing this together with some fellow simmers. We might be doing the odd shared cockpit in the Zibo in X-Plane. And I'm going to stream, and we might have the one or the other of my fellow simmers doing also some streams, depending on availability and time, obviously. Nevertheless, I have started to plan the whole route, as I did 2 years ago when we had our last event with the German team, and I took whatever I could get as data. So they have in the meantime published the times when the flights are to take off. So I'm going to show you that quickly. It's this is the roster basically, or the time planning part of it, for the Worldflight 2020. These are now the times that have been published on the official Worldflight website. And what I do is I put up this list of flights with the UTC times and dates, and I calculate then what this is in local time by using the discrepancy between UTC and our local the local time at the airport. And I also calculate what time this is here in Germany, because I'm flying from Germany. And the reason why I'm doing this is you can see this in the DEP, departure CET and local, and arrival CET and local. CET is the Central European time. That's UTC +1 in November. We haven't yet got the summertime is still up until the last weekend in October, and that means that a week before Worldflight starts, UTC will switch to also the local time will switch to UTC +1. At the moment it is UTC +2. The reason why I put this in is so that I can see which of the flights are at night, my time, and which are during the day. And I'm relatively sure that I'm not going to do a lot of night flying, like late night. So we're talking evening, that's okay. But anything that starts after local time 2200, 2300 is probably I'm not going to take part because it's too strenuous. I attempted this in previous years when I was flying here from home. I did a lot of flights, but it's just not possible to have a complete. You can't fly 3 or 4 legs alone. You need the break. Usually you have delays anyway, so the theoretical 50 minutes that you have in between legs, it melts away very quickly. And yeah, if you're stuck in holdings and things like that, and then you need to rush again to get ready for the next flight, and then you're stuck with ATC. You can't just turn it off, so you have to continuously monitor ATC. That means either have it loud here in the flat or have a mobile headset, which I have now, and continuously listen to it, because you need to be monitoring. And that's okay for a single flight, but it's too strenuous. I've done it before with 3, 4, 5 legs during the day, for example. And then night becomes even harder, because I used to do like work during the day and then do a couple of flights in the evenings, and you are already tired. So I'm not going to do a lot of flights, that's for sure. And I'm going to pick flights that ideally for me, and that's this second, the departure local and arrival local, that are at least partially in daylight as far as I can tell. Okay, so anything that's dark gray here means that we're flying in the dark, and to be honest, it is already boring enough usually during the flight. But if you can't see anything, it's even more boring, because you have a black outside view with nothing in it, and then you arrive in the dark and you don't see zilch of where you arrive. So by tendency, I would probably attempt to have at least one of the two, the departure or the arrival, in somewhat like daylight, and have some daylight also during the flight, so that we're not completely flying in the dark. I did this in previous years when I was not flying for the team itself in the simulator, and yeah, it makes it even more boring, to be honest. It's just a fact of life. So I'm going to pick flights where we have, let's say, decent airports, where we have some light, because it is actually easier also to do that, and I'm not going to do very late or very, very early flights. It's just too strenuous. And in between, yeah, it depends very much on what happens. I might have to dash off again and not do any flights during one day, because something is come up again with the problem I mentioned at the beginning. So I have no idea how this is going to pan out. But this is the planning, and yeah, you can already see, for example, large trip times. This is, for the first one, this is actually not true. The trip time is actually less, or the actual flying time is less than 3 hours. The reality, though, is that when everybody comes to Sydney, and I'm expecting actually more individuals to show up in Sydney than probably in previous events, because we may not have that many teams, but a lot of people like me, instead of flying for the team, want to participate, and it's the first and the last you want to really be part of in this event. So the organizers expect huge numbers of people showing up, and I'm pretty sure they will. And therefore, it will take quite long before you get off the runway to fly to Adelaide. That's why this is 3-hour-10, although the actual flying time is something like below 2 hours. So they have already factored in at least an hour's delay for most people. But for the rest of the flight, most flights are below 3 hours, which is actually not bad, because somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours and a half, that's a reasonable flying time. It's not too bad. It's not that long. And yeah, it allows you to pick your flights, and let's say let one flight, maybe skip one flight to do your lunch here, and then come back in the afternoon, set up in time for that leg, for the next, the leg after the one that you have skipped, and continue. There are only very few flights that are above 3 hours. For example, flying from Adelaide to Perth is to Perth is a bit longer, 3 hours 40, and flying from Los Angeles to Mexico City is also 3 hours 35. It's one of the longer legs. When we look at the time, this is something that I might actually do, because it's still 20:30 is a good time in the evening. And it's probably quite interesting to fly from Los Angeles to Mexico. So yeah, will be an interesting one. I will arrive at about midnight, plus minus. So this is covering the whole evening, but that's a possibility. That's something I would do. Yeah. Then we have another large one from over the Atlantic via Gander. Again, local time. We start at 8 o'clock if we get away in time, and we arrive also in and around midnight. So again, this is just about. The only thing is, this is transatlantic, so there isn't much to be seen. The good thing is there is transatlantic ATC, so it will be an interesting leg from that point of view, and we land in the middle of the Atlantic, the Azores. Then there's a second from the Azores, it's a second leg then to Spain, but that's far too late, so I'm not going to do that, because I need sleep, you know. So very likely that I'm going to do this one. Then we have a flight from Urumqi to Pakistan, and that is in the middle of the night, so I'm not going to do that. And then there is this here. This is a 5 hour 20 leg. It's a bit strange. We're flying from Kota Kinabalu. That's actually a place where I was this January, before this whole COVID shit came up. Kota Kinabalu. And it's from Malaysia to Port Moresby. That is quite a long leg. And it's also, yeah, the whole evening and into the night. So I'm not going to do that. That's too long for me. And then sort of the last flight, definitely 9 o'clock on Saturday morning until about 10:30. That's the last leg to Sydney, and then comes the Sydney Harbour Run. I hope that we will have some teams to perform the Harbour Run. Yo. So that's the schedule. That's going to be, and I'm going to pick flights. I will let you know which ones I'm going to do, and we'll probably announce them then on Twitch. I'm going to stream on Twitch because streaming on YouTube hasn't really worked out for me. It's not really that good. Twitch is actually much better when it comes to live streaming. I prefer it, and I'm going to use this for this event. But I will probably publish most of those flights if there's nothing went wrong, or one of the reasons why I might not publish something or work on the video first before I publish it on YouTube is if there are issues with ATC, not so much with me, but generally, you know, I don't want to kind of publicly document when things go wrong with ATC. So if it's not fair also to the individuals, because they spend their time, and I don't really want to have them then document it because they had a bad day or something, okay? So things like that might actually prompt me to either not publish a flight or work on that flight and cut out the respective parts, just out of respect for those people that still take the time, even if it hasn't worked out perfectly for them and for us, instead of documenting it and leaving it then forever. That's not fair, and that might be a reason why you will not see everything that I experienced. Okay, so that's that. That's the schedule. You can see it here. Interesting route this year. Actually, yeah, a pity that we can't do it in the normal way, because I think this would have been a very interesting flight, and because we have relatively short legs, it would have been relatively easy also for the teams, because these shorter flights that we have a lot of this year, they are easier to manage for the teams, or for the cockpit teams. Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't to be this year, thanks to COVID. And I wonder what will happen next year. Let's see. Hopefully, maybe we're going to do a proper Worldflight next year than in 2021. Okay, so far, next video is going to show you my setup here. I've been working on getting everything up and running again, because I had done a major work here of my simulator rig. So I'm going to document that in the next video. Until next time.